and welcome to the Boise Metro Chamber's Metro Minute series, your quick guide to business impact. My name is Tori Thomas, Community and Government Affairs Manager here at the Chamber, and your host for today's event. The Boise Metro Chamber is Idaho's only 5-star accredited chamber and represents nearly 2,000 members. We are only able to provide current events and educational content because of our members and their investment in our community. Before I introduce our speaker for today, I want to thank Hawley Troxell for their generous support. Please enjoy this quick video from our sponsor.
We date our roots back to the 1860s with James Hawley. Although we have a long history, we've also done well to adapt to the future and adapt to what it means to provide legal services today in what is often a high-tech world.
When you have 110 lawyers under one roof practicing together, they help each other out. It's a great value to the client.
The values we're presenting to our clients and to each other and the way we're conducting ourselves both professionally and personally makes it a natural fit that we're going to do our best to serve the members of our community.
For today's episode, we are joined by Tom Mortell. Thanks for being here with us, Tom.
Tori, it's my pleasure to be with you today. We thank all those who have joined us.
Well, I'll do a quick intro or quick bio of you before we get going. Tom Mortell is Hawley Troxell's co-managing partner, chair of the healthcare practice group, and a member of the construction practice group. His healthcare practices focuses on advising hospitals and other healthcare providers on all aspects of healthcare law. Tom has spent over 20 years representing businesses in Idaho and has a long history with the Chamber. He served as the Chamber's board chair, currently serves as the Boise Valley Economic Partnerships chair, and is also the Chamber's policy committee chair, which is the main topic that we're here today. So thanks so much for all you do for the community and for the Chamber, and also for sponsoring this event or this series.
Great. Thanks for having me, Tori.
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump into a couple questions. Before we break down the policy committee and all the things that we do during the session, I want to chat a little bit about your involvement. We were chatting a little bit before we jumped on this call about, how long you and I have had the opportunity of working together. And you've been with the policy committee for a few years now. So, and the Chamber and me personally, we're very grateful for you and the leadership that you provide. So wanted to chat, how did you get involved with the committee? And then, what motivates you to continue on?
Yeah, thanks, Tori. I moved here in 2002 from our firm's Pocatello office. And I was looking for ways to be engaged with the community. And I sat down with one of our senior partners, and he said, let's call Ray Stark and see if he has any ideas. Ray Stark is, of course, your predecessor, one of your predecessors. And Ray said, well, maybe Tom should be on our government affairs committee. And that was a committee that met every Friday morning during the session. We would listen to proposed legislation. We would make recommendations to the policy committee. So I did that for a few years. And then after a few years, I was asked to be chair of that committee. And then the chairs of all the committees got a seat on the policy committee. So for a long time, I was on both of those committees. I was on the policy committee and I chaired the government affairs committee. That evolved into just me being on the policy committee. The government affairs committee was kind of wound down. And so I've just been on the policy committee, I don't know how many years. I'd say it's between 12 and 14 years or something like that. But it's been a wonderful opportunity to help our business community by analyzing legislation and making recommendations on the positions the Chamber should take on many different public policy issues.
That's so awesome. I forget, I said it in your bio, but there's just such a great history with you in the Chamber, and it's always fun to hear Ray's name being talked about. I mean, I think he's a local celebrity, so it's fun to hear that and hear that he brought such great people, and we all get to benefit. I mentioned to you before we started, but I started in 2020, and then jumped into this role at the end of close to the end of 2020, and got to be a part of the policy committee and see all the changes that happened during that session. I'm sure most of the audience probably remembers, but that was, a session that we were dealing with a lot of pandemic concerns and mask mandates and, talk of vaccine. And I think it really ignited our fire to make sure we're advocating for businesses and they just get to do what they think is best in all of this. And so working with you was, so much fun. And I don't know if I'd have that much fun during that session, but there was a lot of chatting that year.
Yeah, that was a really interesting time, wasn't it? And,
yeah.
and we got to use, methods of communication like we're using today. And we started doing events on StreamYard, and it was, we've learned a lot from them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think our policy committee, obviously has grown through that and tried to understand a little bit about how we get involved. So with that, our policy committee meets weekly. For anyone that doesn't know, we meet weekly during the session. So the session starts in January and it's supposed to end kind of March, but just kind of depends on budgets and what gets done. And so a lot of times our policy committee will meet into April and sometimes into May. We never know. And we do, offer this hybrid option for people to make sure that we get all of the aspects of those perspectives. So kind of breaking down that policy committee overview, how does it operate and how does the committee make those decisions?
Okay, happy to talk about that. I'm going to back up just a little bit and just emphasize how much the Idaho legislature does that affects Main Street businesses, large and small. It's important for all businesses, and the Chamber represents businesses from the very largest to the very smallest in Idaho, from Micron to a one-person operation. And we evaluate the legislation that affects those businesses and make recommendations to our lobbyists like you, Tori, and others that go out and advocate for our needs and our interests. The policy committee is made up of a group of individuals. It's the committee chairs of all the different chamber committees. So it covers everything from travel and tourism to the nonprofit sector, to food and agriculture and healthcare and other committees. And those committees come together and form the policy committee. Then we have a couple of other at-large members that are former board chairs or people that are especially interested in legislation, and they sort of fit in that category. We meet every Wednesday at 4 o'clock during the legislative session. We usually meet once beforehand and preview. Sarah Bettweiser, one of our lobbyists, will give us a preview of what we can expect for the session, some major initiatives. We sometimes will hear from the governor's office or others about what we can expect. And then we meet every Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. The Chamber Board has delegated to the Policy Committee the obligation to review legislation and make decisions in real time. So we don't make a recommendation to a board. It's our decision. We then send our lobbyists out and we can either monitor or oppose or support or take any number of positions on a legislative initiative. We've looked at it, we've thought about it, we've looked at it from the Chamber's interests. We tend to focus on business-related issues. We tend to not be involved in the social issues, although some of those issues are impacting our ability to recruit businesses to come to Idaho and our ability to sell our state to those that are moving to Idaho, both individuals and businesses. So we focus on I think last year we reviewed, Tori, 93 items of legislation, a few of them every week. We read them and we review them. We get input from Bobby Joe Muehlman, Chamber CEO, from you, from Sarah, and we then take a position on them. These are legislative issues that are important to small business. Although the policy committee is also represented by large businesses in Idaho, many of those companies like Simplot or Idaho Power or Micron, they may have their own lobbyists. And they also have the Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry, which represents the very biggest businesses in Idaho. Those companies still participate in our policy committee and still add, tremendous value and insight. But then we also have representatives on our policy committee that represent just regular Main Street businesses. These are businesses who don't have their own lobbyists, maybe don't have a trade association that they can team with. We become their advocates before the legislature on issues that are real and important to them. And I take great pride in the fact that the policy committee is there to serve all the chamber members, but with a special emphasis on those I think are underrepresented, or those who wouldn't have an efficient and effective method for advocating what's important to their business. We love having Micron and Simplot and all those others participate, but in my mind, being able to serve small businesses is really what the chamber's focus should be. Businesses the size of my firm, businesses the size of many other clients that we represent, players in our business community who are outstanding corporate citizens and need representation before the legislature.
Love that. Thank you for that.
I miss any, that was kind of a long-winded answer. Did I miss anything that you asked me about?
No, that was perfect. I think it showed, it just broke down like what the chamber, what we focus on, and hopefully, you know, folks understand the different industries. And, you know, you alluded to all of our membership. We have to obviously be aware of what affects businesses overall, and we have to kind of know what priorities we're looking at. So over the years, we've done like a document, kind of a priority document to showcase what we focus on during the session. We did make a statement this past year that I wouldn't mind reading to the audience, just to kind of show a little further of, you know, how the chamber decides on business issues. So the Boise Metro Chamber is a strong voice for local businesses in the Treasure Valley. At the heart of our advocacy lies a fundamental belief in the autonomy of businesses, supporting their freedom to operate as they see fit. We advocate for policies that empower the business community, ensuring that they have a say in key areas such as education and workforce development, transportation and infrastructure, tax policy and economic development, travel and tourism, and healthcare. By working together with businesses and forming strategic partnerships with state, local, and federal officials, we aim to create an environment where businesses can succeed, benefiting not just individual companies, but the entire Treasure Valley community. So I think that shows that, you know, our ultimate goal is to make sure businesses get the choice to do how they see fit. And that's a lot of our conversations in policy committee. And Tom does such a great job at kind of bringing us back in. How does this affect businesses, and, you know, what's our position on that, and how do we want the businesses represented? So, well, with all of that and talking about the different industries, how do you and the policy committee balance that engagement to ensure that all members are represented well? You mentioned small businesses and big businesses and different types of people. How are those conversations go? How do you?
I think we look at, you know, there are some factors that are common for all businesses. For example, transportation and workforce development. Businesses large and small need quality employees, and Idaho is growing at a rate that often businesses struggle to find qualified employees. And so I think we look for issues that affect everybody. You know, there will be issues where it's mainly Idaho's big businesses that care deeply about it, and we'll advocate for those issues, but we'll always be careful not to negatively affect one segment of the chamber's membership to benefit another. So there are some issues where our members are just on opposite sides of the issue. We tend to not dive deeply into those issues. We tend to let the political system work its way through, tend to let them advocate on their own, but that's actually pretty rare. It's not very often that we say, well, we've got these members that view it this way and these members that view it the other way. The issues that we jump into are almost always common to everybody. So we can make that balance and have it be effective for everybody.
Love that. Thank you. So as someone that didn't fully understand all that chambers of commerce do when I first started at this job, I think it'd be helpful to share with the audience, say, why the chamber engages in policy and legislative matters. I mean, I think it's obviously clear that we're advocating for businesses, but why do you think it's so helpful from a chamber?
That's a really good question. I think that if you look at the core of the Chamber's mission, it's always been twofold. It's been providing education and resources for businesses to have what they need to be successful. That's the education arm of the Chamber. We've had education series, all sorts of different presentations, opportunities for people to get together and network, and all sorts of great events where we bring the community together. And maybe education's too narrow, but there's just a lot of benefit chambers provide in giving people opportunities to be together and to network with each other and to strengthen our business together. So I would say education and networking is one major aspect. Then the second major aspect is advocacy, because we're the natural fit for Main Street businesses to need someone that can advocate on their behalf with the legislature. There's really no one else out there that can do that. There's no structure in place where all businesses are united kind of under one umbrella, and the donations and sponsorships and membership dues paid by those businesses can be of a sufficient quantity and magnitude to effectively hire professionals like you and Sarah Betweiser to go out and advocate on our behalf as small business owners. And so I think the reason we do it is because, number one, I don't think there's anyone out there otherwise that could do it. And over the years, we've garnered a very reputable perspective within Idaho state government and our local city and county governments for being the representatives of small business and for being a reasonable voice. You know, there's not too many people that have ever said, oh, the Chamber's taking a crazy position. We're taking the positions that benefit business. And for example, I took great pride session before last. The Boise Metro Chamber was the first party to, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Tori, but the first party to endorse the governor's launch program, a program that's going to transform the availability of workforce and educating our high school graduates on where their place is in Idaho. And that's a program that's going to greatly benefit Idaho small businesses. And we were there on the forefront of it. We were there on the forefront of helping Micron in its relocation decision and advocating for that. And so there's been all sorts, I shouldn't say relocation, but it's expansion project. So we've just really done some things that have built our reputation. I think we're well regarded within the lobbying community and the business community as being a very reputable voice for business.
Yes, thank you for that. I think as we continue to grow and our community continues to grow, and I think with younger businesses coming through, how do we make sure they know that the Chamber is supporting them and their business and their community? And so it's a really fun opportunity to be a part of this and to be a part of the advocacy leg of the Chamber, and to watch things happen and be able to be a voice for our businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, well, now on to some fun questions. Not that this wasn't fun, but as we prepare for another session starting in January, from your perspective, are there any recent initiatives or even legislative changes that you believe the Chamber will try to focus on this next session?
I think we will continue to advocate for. Now, we're going to have a new mix because we're going to have new players in the legislature this year. The primaries that happened in May, juggled things up a bit. So it's not entirely sure what we're going to see. But I think as a chamber, we want to see continued funding for the governor's launch program. We want to see continued investment in workforce development. I think we've seen some really substantial investments in transportation that have really helped our community grow. Now, we're also to the point as a community where we're seeing to the point where we can't continue just to expand roads. Essentially we'll expand our roads until they cover too high a percentage of our real estate. So we need to focus on alternate methods of transportation. And at the Chamber's leadership conference in April, which is kind of where we, as a policy matter, we have this 2-day event where we really concentrate on these public policy issues and network with legislators, mayors, county commissioners, business community leaders, nonprofit leaders. We focused in the past on things like transportation and the need to find ways to get people from Canyon County to Micron without having to go through Boise every day, and for alternative ways of getting people to their jobs, which cut down on their commute time and will be more efficient for our. So transportation is always going to be a big issue. I think funding for Medicaid, Idaho's Medicaid program, will be an issue we weigh in on this year and wade into as an issue. There's always some social issues that end up affecting business, and I'm sure we'll be sidelined on some of those, or at least drawn into some of those. But those are the kinds of things. Workforce development is just always going to be key. That's what we hear from our members the most, that they're struggling to find qualified employees and that the labor markets are still not fully corrected from our post-COVID inflationary times. Can you think of any others, Tori? I may be missing some. You kind of follow this as much or more than I do.
I thought you did a great job. I think that's a lot of, the main topics of our priorities, I'm sure, this next session. And I agree with you. I think there are some social things that we'll continue to see that, might negatively or positively impact business. And I think it'll be, as we continue to have these conversations with our policy committee and our board, how does the chamber get involved, and where is the line? So I think, next.
I should have also mentioned education funding, both K-12 and higher education. As businesses, we're interested in alternative workforce arrangements, career technical education and those kinds of things. But higher education and especially K-12 is always something we spend time on.
Yeah, mentioning that, the facilities bill that came out that would provide money towards school facilities, and then it would also have a play in our taxes. That was a huge thing that the chamber supported as well. And so, we're huge supporters of anything education.
And if you think about it, Tori, in the time I've participated and the perspective I've had from those years, we've gone from a transportation system that everyone felt was bankrupt. ITD's obligations to repair and replace roads were more than, they would be defined as bankrupt under federal bankruptcy law. That's not the case anymore. The legislature's made substantial investments. We're seeing nearing the conclusion of the the Highway 16 corridor from Emmett to I-84. What a great thing that is for our valley. We've seen those investments that have made transportation better. We used to laugh that we're always 51st or 50th with education. We've grown out of that too. We've seen commitments made by our legislature, both to facilities and funding the operational costs of schools. We've also seen really dramatic improvements in a bunch of things. So the issues we've cared about and lobbied for, among many other people who have lobbied for those same issues, we've seen Idaho's landscape improve in many ways. Others would say it's kind of declined on the social side of things or some of the civility side of things. But as far as the business issues we focused on, I think we've seen some really good things.
I agree. I think, and that kind of leads us into one of our last questions. How can the business community get involved? You mentioned, having really great legislators and great supporters of business. And I think a lot of times we miss that aspect. We like to look at the negative side of things, and we don't always look at the people that we could be thanking and the people that are really helping businesses. And so how can the business community get more involved in advocacy work, or even just get involved with the chamber and how the advocacy that we're doing, or even communicating with the chamber on what they need?
Yeah, that's you got four good questions all mixed in there together. I would answer it this way, that our political system is still built on individual participation. If you're a business owner and you're concerned about the direction that either regulation or legislation or anything that's happening on the state or local level, think about getting involved by running for office. It's a difficult proposition. It's a hard thing to do, but that's where you can really make some changes. The second thing you can do is know who your legislators are. Have an opportunity, go to their events, express your appreciation for the good things they're doing, make suggestions for the things that you'd like to see changed. Communicate with them through email or otherwise. We have platforms that allow the chamber. Don't we have platforms that allow communication with our legislative? I may be off a little bit there, but the chamber can help you identify who your legislators are and help you communicate with them effectively. Those individual communications are important. We see legislators inundated sometimes with robo emails where they'll get 10,000 emails from their constituents that'll all be identical. And I don't think that's all that effective. But we're a small enough community still that you can reach out to your legislator and be heard. So I would encourage you to do that. The second thing you can do is you can be informed on the third thing you can do is to be informed on the issues. Find a news source that's balanced, analyze the issues. Don't let social media spin you in one direction or the other, which it does, unfortunately, in many cases. Get to the bottom of the issues, figure out what you care about, and then take action by voting and being an advocate for those issues and talking about it with your friends. And then the last thing you can do is be involved in the chamber's advocacy efforts. Be willing to support the chamber, pay your membership dues, attend our events where we talk about public policy issues, and just try to stay informed. And the chamber has an important role in that. We feel your support from the business community in our advocacy efforts. Don't hesitate to reach out to us and tell us what you think we should or shouldn't do and how we can best advocate for business. Does that all make sense, Tori?
That was great. I'm going to probably quote you in an upcoming advocacy update. So just keep an eye out for that. Okay. Thank you so much, Tom. I hope that our audience felt like we broke that down well enough for them. And hopefully they know the work that we try to do. And also hopefully they do feel comfortable to get a hold of us. I know that is really helpful for especially me when I'm working on these issues during the session, but outside of it. What are the concerns of small businesses? What can the chamber be doing better to serve our community? And we really want to hear from people to know that and to advocate for them better. So we really appreciate your time today, Tom. Thank you so much for everything that you do for the chamber and for the community overall. And thank you for sponsoring this. Hawley Troxell is sponsoring this series. So we really appreciate that. Yeah. I want to give, sorry, you go.
Let me just thank you, Tori, for inviting me. I think you do a great job. It's been my pleasure to be here with you today. And I really thoroughly enjoy working with you and others at the chamber. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tom, for that. Huge thank you to our media partners, Idaho Ed News, Idaho Capital Sun, and Idaho Press. This series will have 2 episodes per month. So please tune back in and we'll catch you on the next Metro Minute.